when I slammed the $42 and my resignation letter down on the reception desk. The entire floor went silent. Liam. Have you lost your mind? Mason stepped out of the CEO's office. Crisp suit and a gold executive assistant badge pinned to his chest. A warehouse grunt like you doesn't even need to write a resignation letter. Just get the hell out. I didn't look at him. I turned and headed for the elevators. Stop right there. Sophia's voice carried from the end of the hallway. She walked toward us in a black tailored skirt suit and 4-inch heels. Step by deliberate step. Every head bowed. She was the chairwoman of the Sullivan Group. And she held every single person's career in this building in the palm of her hand. Sophia reached the reception desk, picked up the resignation letter and read it for 3 seconds. Then lifted the $42. What is this? Mason leaned in at once. Ms. Sullivan. This is Liam's quarterly bonus. Per his performance review. Smack. Sophia slapped Mason across the face. The whole floor froze. Who gave you the nerve to pay my husband a $42 bonus? Mason clutched his cheek. Eyes bulging so far they looked ready to pop. The receptionist dropped her stack of papers. Pages scattering across the floor. Zoe, the chief financial officer, walked out of the break room just then and dropped her mug straight to the ground. Ms. Sullivan, what did you just say? I said. Sophia held the $42 up in front of Mason's face. Liam is my husband. What exactly do you mean by paying my husband a $42 bonus? No one spoke. No one dared. Mason's face flushed red. Then blanched white. Then turned a sickly green. No, that's impossible. Impossible. Sophia stared at him coldly. Want me to show you our marriage license? 3 months earlier. On my first day reporting to the Sullivan Logistics branch office. Mason had already decided to put me in my place. New hire. Warehouse is in Section B. Get moving. I glanced at the schedule on his desk. My position was listed as Operations Specialist. My position is. Your position is whatever I say it is. Mason didn't even look up. Feet propped on his desk. Ms. Sullivan assigned you to this branch. But she didn't say anything about special treatment. If you can't handle it, leave. I said nothing and went to the Section B warehouse. After a full day of hauling cargo, I got back to my rental apartment that evening. And Sophia called. How was it? Holding up okay on your first day? Fine. Really? Really? She was quiet for a few seconds. You insisted on experiencing the front lines. And I didn't stop you. But if anyone gives you a hard time, they won't. Liam. Yeah. I can bring you back anytime. I know. After I hung up, I looked at the blisters on my hands and smiled a little. I'd asked for this. Truly. The Sullivan Group had over a dozen subsidiaries. And I wanted to know what life was like for the employees at the very bottom. I just hadn't expected it to be this brutal. The next day, Mason made me clean the bathrooms. The day after that, he sent me out to buy coffee for the entire floor. On the 4th day, he poured the coffee I'd bought straight onto the floor. Who told you to get Americano? I wanted latte. Go back. Lily walked by and snickered. Come on. Mason. Go easy on him. A warehouse grunt like him is doing good just remembering there are different kinds of coffee. Mason laughed too. You're right. I'm asking too much. I turned around and went back to buy it again. Their laughter followed me out the door. A month later. I was used to it. Used to Mason dumping work on me that wasn't my job. Used to Lily rolling her eyes every time she passed my desk. Used to Zoe accidentally miscalculating my overtime on payday. Used to everyone treating me like I was invisible. The only person who ever spoke to me was Chloe, the girl at the front desk. Liam. You're working late again. Yeah. Mason wants me to re-enter all this month's outbound orders. But doesn't the system generate those automatically? He says the system's unreliable. Wants me to verify them manually. Chloe bit her lip. Liam. Why don't you push back? He's obviously picking on you. It's fine. It's not fine. Last week he took your proposal and took credit for it with Ms. Sullivan. You wrote that. I stopped what I was doing and looked at her. How do you know that? Chloe's cheeks flushed. I saw. That logistics optimization plan Mason made you write. The next day he took it to headquarters and presented it as his own. Ms. Sullivan even praised him for it. I smiled a little. It doesn't matter. She looked at me. then stopped herself. Whatever. If you say so. What she didn't know was that Sophia had asked me about it that same night. Mason presented a logistics optimization proposal today. It was very well written. You wrote it. Didn't you? How did you know? He couldn't write something like that if his life depended on it. There was a sharp edge of anger in her voice. Liam. What are you putting up with all this for? I want to see just how badly a regular employee can get pushed around in this company. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. 3 months. She said. That's all I'm giving you. After 3 months. Whether you like it or not. I'm coming to get you. Deal. The second month. Things got worse. Mason had heard somewhere that my wife was beautiful. And he started prying. Liam. I hear you're married. Yep. What does she do? She works. Where? At a company. Mason's patience snapped. I'm asking you a question. Can you give me a straight answer? I looked up at him. What does my wife have to do with my job? His face darkened and he slammed a stack of files down on my desk. Finish all of these today. Don't even think about leaving until they're done. It was 3 days worth of work. I glanced at the clock. 4 in the afternoon. Sure. At 11 that night. I finished the last file. I was the only person left in the office. My phone rang. It was Sophia. You still not home? Almost. Just wrapping up. I'm coming to get you. You don't have to. I'm already downstairs. I froze for a second. Then walked to the window and looked down. A black Maybach was parked out front. Headlights on. How long have you been here? Since 8. She'd been waiting downstairs for 3 hours. I grabbed my things and went down. Then climbed into the passenger seat. Sophia looked at me and said nothing. What's wrong? She reached out and brushed the dark circles under my eyes. You've lost weight. I haven't. Liam. Yeah. 1 more month. I know. The first week of the 3rd month. Mason brought someone to the office. Ryan. Deputy Director of Marketing at Sullivan Group Headquarters. Word was he'd been pursuing Sophia. So this is the guy you were telling me about. Ryan glanced at me and laughed. Him. Mason nodded. Yep. That's him. Spends all day hauling boxes and running errands. Beats me how he even got hired. Ryan walked over to me and looked me up and down. Hey. Man. I hear your wife's pretty hot. I ignored him. Let me tell you something. Ryan lowered his voice. Ms. Sullivan's looking for a husband these days. If you're smart. Are you done? Ryan blinked. Then laughed. Got a temper on him. Huh. Mason. This one's gonna be hard to keep in line. Mason snorted. If he won't fall in line. He can leave. Perfect timing. 2. Quarterly reviews are coming up. I knew exactly what they were planning. Sure enough. When the quarterly results came out. My performance rating was the lowest in the whole company. Grade D. Bonus. $42. Zoe handed me my pay stub with a smug little smile. Sign here. Liam. I stared at the number. 42. Zoe. I've had perfect attendance for 3 months and put in over 200 hours of overtime. How is my rating AD? Director Mason sets the evaluation criteria. I just hand out the checks. What about my overtime pay? What overtime? There's no record of your overtime in the system. I laughed. Fine. I signed. Took the $42 and my pay stub. And walked to Mason's office. He was inside drinking tea with Ryan. He didn't even glance up when I walked in. What do you want? I set the $42 down on his desk. What's this supposed to mean? Mason frowned. My bonus. What about it? You got a D. You're lucky you're getting anything at all. Mason. I looked him dead in the eye. I'm asking you one last time. Who wrote that logistics optimization proposal? Mason's face fell. Ryan laughed from the side. Wow. Still hung up on that. Look. Man. In this business. Ability doesn't matter, rank does. You can write the best proposal in the world. But if you're just a grunt, someone higher up's gonna take the credit? Is that right? I pulled my resignation letter out of my pocket and set it down next to the $42. Then I quit. Mason glanced at the letter and smirked. About time. Guys like you end up at the bottom no matter where you go. Maybe. I turned to leave. Wait. Mason called after me. Hey. How about you introduce your wife to Director Ryan here? He's a deputy director at Sullivan Group headquarters. Way more successful than you'll ever be. I stopped. Didn't turn around. You're gonna regret saying that. Mason and Ryan both laughed. You make me regret it. I walked out of the office. Left the resignation letter and the $42 at the front desk. And sent Sophia a message. 3 months are up. Come get me. 20 minutes later. A Maybach pulled up outside the building. Then a second. Then a third. Chloe at the front desk nearly spilled her coffee when she saw the convoy. Liam, there are so many fancy cars downstairs. I stood in the lobby and didn't move. The elevator doors slid open. Sophia stepped out. She was wearing that black skirt suit I loved so much. Her hair pulled up. And the diamond stud earrings I'd given her for our anniversary last year. 4 people followed behind her: the chief legal officer, chief human resources officer, and chief financial officer of Sullivan Group. Plus a middle-aged man I didn't recognize. The entire floor stood up. Ms. Sullivan. Why is Ms. Sullivan at the branch? Hurry. Tell Director Mason. Sophia didn't look at anyone. She walked straight to the reception desk. Picked up the resignation letter. Then lifted the $42. Then she turned around and looked at Mason, who came rushing out of his office. He was all smiles. Ms. Sullivan. What brings you here in person? You could have just called. Smack. The whole floor heard it. Mason clutched his cheek. Completely stunned. Ms. Sullivan. Who gave you the nerve? Sophia held up the $42. To pay my husband a $40 bonus. The air went thin. Everyone froze. Lily dropped her stack of papers. All the color drained from Zoe's face. Ryan poked his head out of Mason's office. And the second he saw Sophia, his legs turned to jelly. Husband. Mason's voice was shaking. Ms. Sullivan. You mean Liam is your? Which part of that didn't you understand? Sophia walked over to me and slipped her arm through mine. Right there in front of everyone. Liam is my husband. We've been married 3 years. Mason went deathly pale. It all came crashing down on him: 3 months of making me haul cargo, clean bathrooms, run for coffee, work late into the night, stealing my proposal and taking the credit, telling me to my face that guys like me end up at the bottom, even sicking Ryan on me to humiliate me. Ms. Sullivan, I had no idea. I swear I didn't know. So if you'd known he wasn't my husband, it would have been okay to treat a regular employee like this. Mason opened his mouth. But no words came out. Sophia looked at the HR director behind her. Investigate every performance record, overtime log, and work assignment targeting Liam at this branch over the past 3 months. Leave nothing out. Yes, ma'am. And she turned to Zoe. On the finance side, who approved the $40 bonus? Who deleted the overtime records? I want the full approval chain. Zoe's legs were shaking. Ms. Sullivan. I was just following Director Mason's orders. Then investigate his too. The news spread through the entire Sullivan Group like wildfire. The temp warehouse worker at the branch was the chairwoman's husband. By that afternoon, headquarters was in an uproar. I sat in Sophia's car, watching messages pop up nonstop on my phone. From Chloe: Liam, you're Ms. Sullivan's husband. I knew you weren't just some regular guy. From a former coworker: Liam, don't hold all that stuff against us. Okay. Mason made us do it. A few unknown numbers called too. I didn't answer any of them. Sophia sat next to me, silent the whole time. You mad? I asked. What do you think? A little. She turned to look at me. Liam, do you have any idea how hard it was to hold back for 3 months? Every day watching those people walk all over you. I wanted to fire all of them on day 1. But you held back. Because you asked me to. Her voice was a little rough. But $42. That's where I draw the line. I squeezed her hand. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Save it. She pulled her hand away. We're settling this when we get home. The car pulled out and headed for headquarters. What are we going to headquarters for? A meeting. Sophia stared out the window. Some people need to be dealt with. The big conference room on the 32nd floor of Sullivan Group headquarters. When I followed Sophia inside, a dozen or so people were already seated, all the company's top executives. The second they saw me. Every face in the room reacted. Shock. Awkwardness. Stone-cold neutrality. Ryan sat in the corner. His face thunderous. Everyone. Sophia took her seat at the head of the table. I called this emergency meeting for one reason. She set the $42 down on the table. My husband worked at the branch for 3 months. He got a D on his performance review and a $44 bonus. Someone want to explain that? No one spoke. Ryan. Ryan flinched. Why wise? Ms. Sullivan. What were you doing at the branch? I was there on an inspection tour. Inspection tour. Sophia flipped open a file. You told Mason to push Liam out. Then you'd come take credit with me for great workforce optimization at the branch. Didn't you? Sweat beaded on Ryan's forehead. And Sophia kept flipping pages. That thing you said to Mason introduce his wife to me, you were talking about me. Weren't you? Ryan shot to his feet. Ms. Sullivan. I had no idea he was your husband. I swear I didn't. So if he hadn't been my husband, it would have been okay to hit on another man's wife. Ryan's lips trembled. He couldn't get a word out. HR. Sophia looked at the Chief Human Resources Officer. Ryan. Relieved of his duties. Mason. Terminated. Zoe. Suspended pending investigation. Yes. Ma'am. Meeting adjourned. After the meeting. We were alone in Sophia's office. Don't you think that was a little harsh? I asked. Harsh. Sophia looked at me. Do you have any idea what would have happened if you'd been just a regular employee? Treated like that for 3 months. You wouldn't have even had a chance to fight back. I went quiet. She was right. These 3 months on the front lines. I saw more than just Mason's problems. I said. The whole management system at that branch is broken. Untransparent evaluations. No overtime records. Supervisors can exploit their subordinates however they want. So I want to write a report. Lay out every problem I saw over these 3 months. Sophia stared at me for a few seconds. Then suddenly laughed. Liam. You spend 3 months on the ground getting worked like a dog. And the first thing you do when you get back is write a report. What else would I do? Normal people would want revenge. Revenge doesn't fix anything. Changing the system does. She shook her head. Pulled a document out of her desk drawer. And handed it to me. Take a look at this. I took it. It was an official appointment letter. Sullivan Group. Vice President of Operations, Liam Carter. What's this for? It means you're done hauling boxes. Sophia leaned back in her chair. You've got talent. Now use it the right way. I don't want this just because I'm your husband. This isn't nepotism. She cut me off. After Mason took credit for your logistics optimization proposal. I had it evaluated. If we roll it out company-wide, it'll save the group $200 million a year. I froze. You think I did this just because I feel bad for you? Sophia stood up and walked over to me. I did it because I hate seeing talent wasted. News of my promotion spread through the group the next day. Reactions were split. Supporters said the chairwoman's husband had real skill and deserved the role. Critics said it was nepotism. A backdoor hire. That he'd run the company into the ground sooner or later. I didn't care about any of it. But some people did. On my 3rd day in the role, Lucas, one of the group's vice presidents, came to see me. Liam. Right. He sat across from me. Legs crossed. Let me give you some advice. Kid. Go ahead. Not everyone can handle this job. Just because your wife gave it to you doesn't mean you'll keep it. Is that advice? Or a warning? He smiled. Both. Thanks. One more thing. Lucas stood up. You're presenting at the quarterly business meeting next week. All the executives will be there. If you don't have anything solid to show. He didn't finish. But the message was clear. Got it. After Lucas left, I opened my laptop and started compiling the research data I'd gathered over 3 months. Those months Mason spent making my life miserable hadn't been for nothing. I'd worked my way through every part of the branch: warehousing, logistics, delivery, customer service, finance. I'd memorized the flaws in every process. Now it was time to bring them to light. What I didn't know was that while Lucas was talking to me, another plot against me was already in motion. The night before the quarterly meeting, someone had gotten into my computer. My research report, saved on the company server, had been deleted. All the data. All the analysis. All the proposals gone. I sat in my office, staring at the empty folder, and said nothing for a long time. Then I picked up the phone and called IT. Find out who logged into my account last night. Mr. Carter. That requires approval through proper channels. I want it now. There was a pause. Okay. I'll look into it. 10 minutes later. IT called back. Mr. Carter. Someone logged into your account at 11 last night using your employee ID. The IP address traces back to Vice President Lucas's office. I hung up. Lucas. He hadn't just been warning me. He'd been setting me up to humiliate myself at the meeting. No data. No report. What was I supposed to present? Everyone would write me off as a deadbeat who only got the job because of his wife. I glanced at the clock. 9 in the evening. 12 hours until the meeting. I opened a blank document and started writing from scratch. 3 months worth of data. All stored in my head. At 4 in the morning. I finished the last page. 32 pages. Covering 4 areas: warehouse efficiency, logistics costs, staffing, and system optimization. Every single number was something I'd recorded myself over those 3 months. When Mason made me haul cargo, I tracked the warehouse's inbound-outbound efficiency. When he made me re-enter outbound orders, I analyzed the system's data errors. When he made me work late into the night, I studied the night shift's delivery route planning. He thought he was torturing me. Really? He'd just given me a front row seat for field research. I saved the report 3 ways in a USB drive. To my personal email. And as a backup on my phone. Then I laid my head on my desk and slept for 2 hours. At 7 in the morning. Sophia called. You never came home last night. Working late at the office. Did something happen? I hesitated. No. Just getting ready for today's presentation. She didn't push. Good luck. Thanks. Liam. Yeah. No matter how it goes. I'm on your side. I smiled a little. I know. Nina. The big conference room. All the group's executives were present. Lucas sat across from me. A smug, confident smile on his face. He was waiting to watch me crash and burn. Next. We'll hear the quarterly report from Vice President of Operations. Liam Carter. The moderator called my name. I stood up and walked to the projection screen. Lucas lifted his teacup. The corner of his mouth twitching up in a smirk. I plugged in the USB drive and pulled the report up on the screen. Lucas's smile froze. Everyone. This is the full report from my 3 months of frontline research at the branch. I flipped to the first page: warehousing. Right now. Sullivan Logistics warehouse turnover rate is 67 of the industry average. There are 3 main reasons for this. I went page by page. Every number precise to 2 decimal places. The room grew quieter and quieter. Everyone was watching me not as some deadbeat who got the job through his wife, but as someone who actually knew the business. Finally. I flipped to the last page. If all 4 optimization plans are fully implemented, we project annual operating cost savings of $230 million for the group, alongside a 40% improvement in overall delivery efficiency. I closed the report. That concludes my presentation. No one in the room spoke. Lucas's teacup hung midair, untouched. Sophia sat at the head of the table, expressionless, but I saw her fingers tap twice lightly under the table. That little tell she had when she was pleased. After about 10 seconds of silence, the CFO spoke first. Mr. Carter, how did you get these warehouse turnover numbers? The system doesn't track data this granular. I counted it myself. What? I hauled cargo in that warehouse for 3 months. I logged every inbound and outbound shipment. The times. The product categories, all of it. The room went silent again. Lucas set down his teacup. His face dark. Mr. Carter. His voice was tight. This report of yours, the one you had saved on the server. Was it the same as this one? I looked at him. He was fishing. How did you know I had a report saved on the server? Lucas. Lucas's face shifted. I heard IT mention it. Is that right? I smiled a little. Then I guess you also know someone logged into my account last night and deleted that report. A low murmur rippled through the room. Lucas's face went completely black. What are you implying? Nothing. I put away my USB drive. Just a reminder next time you delete someone's files. Don't forget to wipe the IP logs too. Lucas shot to his feet. That's a lie. Sit down. Sophia's voice wasn't loud. But the room went dead silent instantly. Lucas glanced at her. Then slowly sat back down. We'll deal with this after the meeting. Sophia looked at me. All departments. Evaluate Liam's proposal and get me feedback within 3 days. Meeting adjourned. People started filing out. When Lucas reached the door, I called after him. Lucas. He stopped. Didn't turn around. You said not everyone can handle this job. I said. You're right. But the one who can't hold on to it isn't me. He clenched his fists and stormed out. 3 days later. The department evaluations came back. Finance. Proposal feasible. Projected annual cost savings $210,250 million. Tech. System overhaul period approximate 3 months. ROI ratio 1:8. Operations. Recommend immediate pilot launch. Sophia sent the evaluation report to the executive group chat without a single comment. None was needed. The numbers spoke for themselves. That afternoon, Lucas was suspended pending investigation. Reason: unauthorized access to another employee's system account. Suspected destruction of company data. The IT logs were crystal clear. Origin time. IP address. Action history. All of it. When Lucas was packing up his office, I walked past his door. He looked up at me. You knew I'd do it. I didn't. I said. But I always make backups. Those 3 months at the branch. You were planning for this all along. No. I looked at him. I went to the branch to understand the front lines. But you taught me so. Mething problems in this company don't stop at the bottom. Lucas was quiet for a long time. You win. This isn't about winning. I walked away. Behind me, I heard him slam something into his packing box. After news of Lucas's suspension spread, the tone inside the group shifted completely. Everyone who'd been calling me a nepotism hire shut up. 3 times as many people bowed and scraped when they passed me in the hallway. I didn't care about any of that. What I cared about was getting the proposal implemented. The first pilot branch was the one I'd spent 3 months at. The new branch manager was someone I'd promoted from the floor. Old Pete, the warehouse team lead. Mr. Carter, are you sure I can do this? Old Pete stood in front of me, not knowing what to do with his hands. You've worked in the warehouse for 8 years. You know every part of this operation better than anyone. But I've never managed people before. Mason managed people. You saw how that turned out. Old Pete went quiet. I'll give you 3 months. I said. Get warehouse turnover above the industry average. Do it. And the job's yours permanently with a raise. If not, I'll do it. Old Pete pounded his chest. You can count on me. Mr. Carter. I smiled. 3 months earlier, when I was hauling cargo in that warehouse, Old Pete had been the only person who'd helped me. Everyone else had been too scared of Mason to talk to me. But he'd slipped me a bottle of water and said, "Don't let those guys get to you, kid." I hadn't forgotten. The first month after the proposal launched, results already showed. The pilot branch's warehouse turnover rate rose 28. On-time delivery went from 71 to 89. Customer complaints dropped by half. When I presented the numbers at the quarterly review, no one questioned me anymore. But a new problem was coming. Mr. Carter. My secretary knocked and came in. There's a man downstairs who says he absolutely has to see you. Who is it? Says his name is Mason. I paused for a second. Send him up. 5 minutes later, Mason appeared at my office door. He'd lost a lot of weight. His suit was rumpled. And he had heavy dark circles under his eyes. He was unrecognizable from the arrogant director he'd been 3 months before. MMR, Carter. He stood in the doorway. Afraid to come in. Come in. Sit down. He sat down carefully, perching on the very edge of the chair. What can I do for you? I need to ask you a favor. Go on. After I got fired, I looked for work for 3 months. No one will hire me. He kept his head down. I know I was wrong. I had no right to treat you like that. But I have elderly parents to support. And my kid's tuition is due next month. I looked at him. 3 months ago, he'd poured coffee on the floor and made me go buy more. 3 months ago, he'd stolen my proposal and taken the credit. 3 months ago, He'd said guys like me end up at the bottom no matter where we go. Mason, I said. You can't find a job because of you. Not because of me. He looked up. It's your reputation. When you were at the branch, you didn't just pick on me. After you left, 7 employees filed a joint complaint against you withholding overtime pay, falsifying attendance records, workplace bullying. Word gets around. Who'd hire someone like that? Mason's face went white. I can't help you. I stood up. But I'll tell you this, I remember every single thing you did to me. Not because I want revenge. Because it reminds me to never become the kind of person you are. You can go. Mason stood up. His lips moved. But in the end he said nothing and turned to leave. The second the door closed, I heard a muffled sob from the hallway. I didn't feel sorry for him. Because none of those 7 employees he'd bullied had been as lucky as me. 3 months after the proposal was fully rolled out, Sullivan Logistics' overall operating costs had dropped 19. What did that number mean? 180 million saved per year. At the board meeting, all the shareholders applauded. Sophia sat at the head of the table with a faint smile on her face. After the meeting, she stopped me in the hallway. Liam. Yeah. There's something I never told you. I could tell something was off by the look on her face. What is it? Come with me. She took me to a private room on the 32nd floor, one I'd never known existed in this building. When the door opened, I saw a wall of monitors displaying all kinds of data, not just Sullivan Logistics, but the entire Sullivan Group. What is this? The group's real financial state. Sophia closed the door. Liam. The Sullivan Group is on the brink of collapse. I turned to look at her. What do you mean? On paper, the Sullivan Group has $20 billion in annual revenue and is the largest private enterprise in the city. But the truth is, she pointed to a number on the screen. Our debt ratio is already at 87%. 3 years ago, my father died suddenly and left a total mess. Projects that looked great on the surface were full of holes underneath. I've been patching them ever since I took over. But they just keep getting bigger. I stared at the numbers on the screen, my mind racing. You didn't just let me go to the front lines because I wanted to. Sophia was quiet for a few seconds. No. I needed you to see the problems for yourself. The logistics division is the group's biggest money pit, losing nearly $300 million a year. If you could plug that leak, the group might still have a chance. That's right. I took a deep breath and stared at the wall of screens. Silent for a long time. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I didn't want you to feel pressured. She leaned against the wall. When you went to the front lines, I wanted you to be there by choice. Not because you had to. Sophia. Yeah. You've been carrying this alone for 3 years. She didn't answer. But I saw her fingers trembling slightly. From now on, I stepped in front of her. We carry this together. Over the next month, I locked myself in my office and dug through every division's financial data. The logistics leak was plugged. But the other divisions had even worse problems. Real estate, 3 unfinished projects. Broken cash flow. Retail, brick-and-mortar stores losing money for 2 straight years. 40 closed already. And still in the red. Finance, the former CFO made a slew of high-risk investments, with paper losses exceeding $500 million. Every division was a deep pit. And the biggest problem of all, someone was deliberately digging them deeper. Mr. Carter. Zach from IT knocked and came in. Those unusual transfer records you asked me to look into. I found them. Tell me. Over the past 2 years, more than 30 large transfers from the group have gone to the same offshore company. The total amount, he swallowed hard. 1.2 billion. Who approved them? The approver was former Vice President Lucas. I leaned back in my chair. Lucas. He hadn't just deleted my report. He'd been looting the company. One more thing. Zach lowered his voice. I found out who the actual controller of that offshore company is. Who? Sophia's uncle. Samuel Sullivan. My hand froze on the desk. Samuel Sullivan. Sophia's father's own brother. After Mr. Sullivan died, Samuel had fought for the chairman's seat. Lost. And been pushed out by Sophia's shareholder vote. Everyone thought he'd given up. He hadn't. He'd been sabotaging the company from the shadows, using Lucas as his front man to siphon money out bit by bit. When the group finally collapsed, he'd be able to buy the whole Sullivan Group for pennies on the dollar. Zach. I said. This stays between you and me. No one else finds out. Understood. Also, set up a meeting for me with someone. Who? Lucas. Lucas had never left the city after his suspension. I arranged to meet him at a tea house. When he arrived, he looked even more worn out than last time. Didn't think you'd be the one to reach out. He sat down and poured himself a cup of tea. I have a few questions for you. Go ahead. How much did Samuel promise you? Lucas's hand paused mid-pour. Then he laughed. You found out. 2 billion. Over 30 transfers. You signed off on every one of them. Didn't you? He set down his teacup and leaned back. Yeah. Why? Why? Lucas looked at me. You know how many years I put in at Sullivan? 15. Worked my way up from entry-level supervisor to vice president 15 years. Old Mr. Sullivan promised me 5% equity. Then he died. And what happened? Sophia said the company's struggling and wiped that promise right off the table. So you helped Samuel loot the company. I was just taking what was mine. I looked at him. Lucas. Do you have any idea what happens if this group collapses? 30,000 employees out of work. That's not my problem. What if I told you half the money Samuel promised you is nothing but empty promises? Lucas's face shifted. What do you mean? I pulled a file out of my bag and slid it across the table. See for yourself. The balance in that offshore company's account. As of yesterday, 120 million. The other one. 0.8 billion. Samuel moved it to another account. One you have nothing to do with. Lucas picked up the file. His hands shaking. He flipped page after page. His face growing whiter by the second. He lied to me. He never intended to pay you. Not from the start. You were just a tool to him. Lucas slammed the file down on the table and stood up. That old bastard. Sit down. I said. I didn't bring you here to watch you throw a fit. He stared at me. Then slowly sat back down. What do you want? I need you to testify. Lay out everything Samuel's done over the past 2 years. Transfer records. Communications. Meeting minutes, everything you have. You're going to sue him. More than sue him. I said. I'm going to make sure he never touches the Sullivan Group again. Lucas was quiet for a long time. Why should I help you? Because if you don't, Samuel will silence you next. You think he's keeping you around out of loyalty. You're the only person who knows all his secrets right now. All the color drained from Lucas's face. I need protection. I can give you that. But you have to hand over every last piece of evidence. He closed his eyes. A full minute passed. Okay. Once I had Lucas's evidence. I didn't move right away. Because Samuel wasn't working alone. He had 2 allies on the board: Henry, the second largest shareholder, and Frank, the independent director. Together, the 3 of them held 31 of Sullivan Group's shares. If I took down only Samuel, the other 2 would strike back immediately. I needed to take them all out at once. What's your plan? Sophia asked me. We were in the study at home. Stacks of files spread across the desk. At the extraordinary general meeting next week, I said, I'm going to present all the evidence publicly. Samuel will be ready for it. I know. That's why I need someone he'll never see coming to be the opening move. Who? Henry. Sophia frowned. Henry's Samuel's man. How are you going to get him on our side? He's not Samuel's man. I handed her a file. He's Samuel's hostage. Sophia finished reading and looked up. Samuel has something on Henry's son. Yeah. Henry's son was in a car accident 3 years ago. Killed someone. Samuel helped him cover it up. And ever since then, Henry's been his puppet. How did you find out about all this? Lucas told me. Samuel had Lucas handle the hush money for the whole thing. Sophia was quiet for a moment. You're gonna go talk to Henry. No. You are. Me. You're the chairwoman. He hates Samuel. But he doesn't trust me. He'll only trust someone who can actually protect him. Sophia looked at me. And after a few seconds, nodded. Okay. 2 days before the shareholder meeting, Sophia met with Henry. She never told me exactly what they talked about. But when she came back, I knew that look. I just closed a huge deal face. Done. Done. What did he say? Said he's been waiting 3 years for this. I nodded. Everything was in place. The day of the shareholder meeting. The big conference room at Sullivan Group headquarters was packed. All shareholders, directors, and executives were present. Samuel sat in the second row 60-something. Hair perfectly combed. A smug, triumphant smile on his face. He'd come ready to strike. He'd teamed up with Frank to propose a no-confidence vote against Sophia. Their grounds: excessive group debt, mismanagement, and that the chairwoman should resign to take responsibility. When the meeting started, Frank was the first to stand. Fellow shareholders, I propose a no-confidence vote against the current chairwoman. My grounds are as follows. He spoke for 10 minutes, reeling off a long list of figures. When he finished, he looked at Samuel. Samuel stood up. I second the motion. Then he looked at Henry. Henry didn't move. Henry. Samuel frowned. Henry slowly stood up. Every eye in the room turned to him. He paused. I oppose. Samuel's face changed. What did you say? I oppose the no-confidence motion. Henry's voice shook a little, but it was steady. Furthermore, I have information to disclose to all shareholders. Samuel shot to his feet. Henry, think about what you're doing. I've been thinking for 3 years. Henry looked right at him. I've thought about it enough. Henry spoke for 20 minutes. He laid out everything Samuel had done over the past 3 years. One by one. Using Lucas to siphon company assets. Money laundering through offshore accounts. Deliberately tanking projects to drive down the company's valuation. Secretly buying up retail shares to stage a hostile takeover when the company was at its weakest. With every revelation, Samuel's face grew whiter. That's a lie. Samuel slammed his fist on the table and stood up. Where's your proof? The proof is right here. I stood up and set a folder down on the table. Every eye in the room turned to me. Everyone. I opened the folder. This is the complete record of Samuel's asset diversion through Lucas over the past 2 years. Bank statements. Transfer receipts. Offshore company registration documents. Lucas's sworn testimony. I passed the files around one by one. The room grew quieter and quieter. Samuel watched the documents circulate among the shareholders. His face shifting from anger to terror. These are forgeries. Mr. Sullivan. The group's chief legal officer stood up. These documents have been authenticated by a third-party audit firm. We've also filed a police report. Samuel swayed on his feet. You're all ganging up on me. No one's ganging up on you. Sophia stood up. Her voice calm. Uncle. You chose this path. Sophia. I'm your uncle. If your father were still alive. If my father were still alive. Sophia cut him off. He'd be the first one to take you down. The conference room door swung open. 2 uniformed officers walked in. Mr. Samuel Sullivan. Please come with us. Samuel looked at the officers. Then around the room full of shareholders. Not one person spoke up for him. Frank huddled down in his chair, trying to make himself invisible. You'll pay for this, Samuel shouted over his shoulder as they led him away. No one paid him any mind. The second the door closed, a low round of applause rippled through the room. After Samuel was taken away, the no-confidence motion was automatically withdrawn. Frank resigned from his independent director position on the spot and slunk out. After the meeting, Sophia stopped me in the hallway. Liam. Yeah. Thank you. What for? I'm your husband. It's my job. She looked at me and suddenly smiled. You know, when you said you wanted to go work the front lines, I thought you were crazy. And now I think I married the right man. I smiled too. Come on. Let's go home. Wait. She grabbed my arm. One more thing. What? The group's debt problem still isn't fixed. We don't know how much of that $2 billion Samuel stole we'll get back. I know. You have a plan. Yeah. I said. Once the logistics optimization is fully rolled out, it'll save $230 million a year. Add in the restructuring plans I've been working on for the other divisions, cutting losses and exiting real estate. Shifting retail online. Cleaning up bad assets in Finansu can get the debt ratio below 50 within 3 years. Sophia stared at me. When did you work all this out? What did you think I was staying up till 2 a.m. every night doing? She was quiet for a few seconds, then reached over and tweaked my ear. Ow. Hey, ever pull all-nighters behind my back again? And I'm locking you up at home. Okay. Okay. I won't. She let go and turned toward the elevators. After 2 steps, she looked back over her shoulder. Liam. Yeah. I'm cooking tonight. You know how to cook? No. But I can learn. I watched her walk away. And suddenly all the hardship of those 3 months felt worth it. The next 6 months were the hardest and most critical period for the Sullivan Group. I rolled out the logistics optimization plan to every branch across the country. 37 branches. I visited every single one. Oversaw every single one. Everywhere I went. The first thing I did was go to the warehouse. Not to haul cargo, but to talk to the frontline employees. What's the biggest challenge you face? Do you get paid overtime on time? Does your supervisor give you a hard time? I wrote down every answer carefully. 6 months later, the logistics division had gone from the group's biggest money pit to its most profitable. Annual profit went from a $300 million loss to a $100 million gain. When the numbers got out, the whole industry was talking about Sullivan Logistics' comeback. A reporter came to interview me. Mr. Carter, everyone's calling Sullivan Logistics' turnaround a miracle. What do you think? It's not a miracle, I said. It's the hard work of 30,000 frontline employees. I just made sure their voices were heard. And what do you make of being known as the chairwoman's husband? A lot of people say you only got this job through connections. I smiled a little. Can nepotism turn 37 branches from loss to profit? The reporter blinked and didn't press further. After the interview, Chloe sent me a message. Liam, I saw the news. You're amazing. I sent back a smiley. Another message popped up. From old Pete. Mr. Carter, our branch got first place nationwide again this month. The guys want to take you out for dinner. I wrote back, once things slow down, I'll treat everyone. I set down my phone just as Sophia walked in. Saw the news. Article was good. That photo they used, though, awful. That's what you took away from it. She walked over and set a document down on my desk. Take a look. I opened it. It was the approval for the real estate exit plan. All 3 unfinished projects had found buyers. Total recovery, $870 million. That fast? Your plan was solid. And the execution team delivered. Sophia sat across from me. Plus the assets we've recovered from Samuel, $420 million back so far. Debt ratios already down to 71. Faster than we projected. Because of you. I looked up at her. There was something in her eyes I rarely saw. Relief. 3 years. She'd carried this company alone. She'd never gotten to breathe easy. One more thing, she said. The board approved the retail online transformation plan. We start next month. Who's running it? I want you to. I've already got logistics on my plate. Logistics is stable now. You can step back. She looked at me. Liam, I need you to help me save the whole group. I looked at her. Okay. Transforming the retail division was harder than logistics. 40 losing stores. Over 3,000 employees. Over $200 million in dead stock. But none of that was the hardest part. The hardest part was the people. The retail general manager was Stephen. He'd been at Sullivan for 20 years. He wasn't one of Samuel's people. But he wasn't one of mine either. He was the play it safe. Don't rock the boat type. The first time I went to a retail meeting, he smiled the whole time. Nodded at everything. But didn't answer a single substantive question. Stephen, have you done the analysis on why the brick-and-mortar stores are losing money? Yep. Just putting it together. When can I have it? Soon. Next week. Probably. Week after week. 3 weeks went by. And nothing. So I went straight to his flagship store. The store was dead quiet. 5 clerks scrolling on their phones. A layer of dust on the shelves. Where's your store manager? Out. Where'd they go? Dunno. I walked around the store and took over 20 photos. Then I went back to the office. Printed them out. And taped them all over the retail division's conference room walls. At the next day's meeting, Stephen walked in. Saw the wall. And his face finally changed. Mr. Carter. This is Stephen. I pointed at the photos on the wall. This is the retail division you've been running for 20 years. He said nothing. I'm giving you 2 options. 1. Get on board with the transformation. I'll give you the time and resources you need. 2. Don't get on board. And I'll find someone who will. He stared at me for a long time. Mr. Carter. You know why I've been dragging my feet? Why? Because transformation means layoffs. 3,000 people. At least half of them gone. These people have worked with me for 10, 20 years. I couldn't do that to them. I went quiet. Stephen. There won't be any layoffs. He blinked. Moving from offline to online doesn't mean closing stores and cutting staff. It means turning sales clerks into live stream hosts. And stores into broadcast studios and experience centers. No one loses their job. They just work differently. Stephen stared at me. And slowly, light came back into his eyes. You mean that? When have I ever not meant what I said? He stood up and bowed deeply to me. Mr. Carter. I'm in. 3 months into the retail transformation. Online sales broke 50 million. 6 months later. Monthly sales stabilized above 80 million. Those clerks who'd been scrolling on their phones in the store. They were live stream hosts now. Making 3 times what they used to. Stephen told everyone who'd listen, Mr. Carter is the sharpest business mind I've ever met. Meanwhile, the bad asset cleanup in the finance division was nearly done. Those high-risk investments with 500 million in paper losses. After 6 months of restructuring, actual losses were capped at 180 million. The remaining 320 million was fully recovered. Across all divisions combined. The Sullivan Group's debt ratio dropped from 87 to 52. 1 year. Pulled back from the brink. At the year-end board meeting. After the CFO presented the numbers. The whole room stood and applauded. Sophia sat at the head of the table. Looking at me. I sat next to her. Looking at her. After the meeting. Everyone left. Just the 2 of us remained. Liam. Yeah. A year ago. When you slammed that $42 down on the desk, did you ever think we'd be here? No. What were you thinking? Then? I was thinking my wife's been carrying this alone for too long. I had to help her. She looked away. But I saw her ears turn pink. Come on. She stood up. Let's go home. I'm cooking tonight. You mean that burnt egg noodle disaster from last time? Shut up. 2 years later. The Sullivan Group's annual revenue broke 30 billion. Net profit hit 1.8 billion. And the debt ratio dropped to 35. The logistics division ranked top 3 nationwide. Retail's online business exceeded 5 billion in annual sales. The group's headcount grew from 30,000 to 50,000. Not a single layoff. At that year's annual gala, Sophia pulled me up onto the stage. Everyone. She held the microphone. Today I want to introduce someone. 5,000 employees watched from the audience. He's the Sullivan Group's Vice President of Operations. And he's my husband. 2 years ago. He spent 3 months hauling cargo in one of our branch warehouses. Laughter and applause rippled through the crowd. For those 3 months. He was picked on. Laughed at. Shortchanged on his pay. But he never complained. Never pulled any strings. He just quietly noted every problem. Then solved them one by one. His own way. She turned to look at me. Liam. Thank you. I took the microphone. The room went quiet. I don't have much to say. I looked out at all the faces, old Pete. Chloe. Stephen. So many people I couldn't name but had fought alongside. Just one thing. This company isn't where it is today because of me. Or because of Ms. Sullivan. It's here because of every single one of you. Thunderous applause. I handed the microphone back to Sophia and turned to walk off stage. When I reached the wings, I saw a familiar figure. Mason. He stood at the very back of the venue. In a faded jacket. Holding a food delivery bag. He was there making a delivery. Our eyes met across 5,000 people. He lowered his head and turned to leave. I didn't call after him. Some people's endings are the ones they choose for themselves. The night the gala ended, Sophia and I drove home. When we passed that old branch office, she suddenly told the driver to stop. What's wrong? Come up with me. Let's take a look. We walked into the building and took the elevator up to that floor. The office was empty late at night. But the lights were still on, someone was working late. I walked over to where my old desk had been. That tiny spot in the corner. A new hire was sitting there now. A sticky note on their desk read, "You've got this." Sophia stood behind me. "Do you ever regret it?" She asked. Those 3 months. No. Why not? Because without those 3 months, I never would have known how hard it is for a regular employee. Never would have seen what was wrong with this company. Never would have known. Known what? Never would have known how long you'd been carrying this alone. She didn't say anything. Just rested her head on my shoulder. Outside the window, the city lights stretched out as far as the eye could see. I kept that $42 tucked away in a desk drawer at home, under our marriage license. Every time someone asks me the secret to success, I think of that number. Not because of the humiliation. Because it reminds men never forget what people at the bottom are going through. Sophia squeezed my hand. And we stood there together watching the lights. Let's go home, she said. Yeah. Let's go home. Hey there. Could you rate this story in the comments? Use a scale of 1 to 10. Please, I am begging you. It really means a lot to me. And if you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit follow.